Hello students. In today's video, we'll start our discussion with a new chapter, chemical bonding. So before we start the chapter, let us just recall what we've studied in our previous classes about atoms. तो जैसा कि हम हमारी previous classes में पढ़ के आए हैं that under normal conditions, atoms of most of the elements do not exist in free state. Atoms generally combine with the atoms of other elements or maybe atoms of the same kind, and therefore they exist as molecules or ions. That is what we call as the combined state. Therefore, in a combined state, there has to be some force of attraction between the constituent atoms or ions that holds them together. This force of attraction between various constituent atoms or ions in a chemical compound is what we call as a chemical bond. तो chemical bond क्या है? Chemical bond वो force of attraction है जो कि atoms या ions के बीच होता है एक chemical compound में. Now, since we've understood what we mean by a chemical bond, let us go to the next question, that why do atoms combine? See, chemical combination is actually the nature's way of bringing the system to a low energy state and thereby making it more stable. ये नेचर का रूल है कि जो सिस्टम जितना लो एनर्जी स्टेट पे रहता है वो सिस्टम उतना ही ज़्यादा स्टेबल रहता है. एटम्स भी इसीलिए कंबाइन करते हैं क्योंकि कंबाइंड स्टेट में उनकी एनर्जी कम है एज कंपेयर टू द फ्री स्टेट. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ वी कंबाइन द एनर्जी ऑफ टू फ्री एटम्स ऑफ हाइड्रोजन विथ अ मॉलिक्यूल ऑफ हाइड्रोजन, हमें ये पता चलेगा दैट द मॉलिक्यूल ऑफ हाइड्रोजन इज एट अ लोअर एनर्जी एज कंपेयर्ड टू द टू फ्री इंडिविजुअल एटम्स ऑफ हाइड्रोजन, एंड देयरफॉर द एटम्स आर मोर स्टेबल एज अ मॉलिक्यूल देन इन अ फ्री स्टेट. सो अगर अब हमें कोई पूछे कि व्हाट इज द रीजन फॉर केमिकल कॉम्बिनेशन और व्हाई डू एटम्स कंबाइन, द आंसर इज वेरी सिंपल, दैट इट इज अ नेचर्स वे ऑफ कीपिंग अ सिस्टम मोर स्टेबल बाय लोअरिंग इट्स एनर्जी. So, since we've now understood that why do atoms combine, there are some questions that will come to our mind. That why only certain kinds of combinations are possible? आप रिकॉल कीजिए चैप्टर 1 में आप कुछ लॉस पढ़ के आए हैं. जैसे आपने एक लॉ पढ़ा है, लॉ ऑफ कांस्टेंट प्रपोर्शन. द लॉ स्टेट्स दैट इन अ गिवन कंपाउंड the kind of elements are always the same and they are also present in a fixed ratio by mass. चलिए एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं. For example, if we talk about water molecule, then in a water molecule, the atoms are always hydrogen and oxygen, and that too they are present in a fixed ratio by mass. What is the ratio by mass? That is 1:8. तो अगर हम कभी वाटर मॉलिक्यूल को इमेजिन करते हैं या विजुअलाइज करते हैं, द वाटर मॉलिक्यूल ऑलवेज इज अ मॉलिक्यूल मेड अप ऑफ 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. So why only certain kinds of combinations are possible? The next thing, when we look at these molecules in detail, we come to know that each and every molecule has a definite shape. For example, water molecule is a bent molecule, whereas the molecule of carbon dioxide is linear. On the other hand, the molecule of methane, CH4, is tetrahedral and that of ammonia is trigonal pyramidal. So why are molecules having definite shapes or definite geometries? We need to get the answers to all these questions. And to give the answers to all these questions, we have to look at different theories of chemical bonding. Theories like the Cosell and the Lewis theory, or the valence shell electron pair repulsion theory, the valence bond theory VBT, and the molecular orbital theory MOT. These theories will help us to explain various aspects of chemical bonding. And in this chapter, we are going to look at all of these theories in detail. So let us start with the very first theory, and the very first theory that we are going to be discussing now is the Cosell and the Lewis theory. Lewis in 1916 pictured a cubical model of an atom, wherein he proposed that an atom has a positive kernel that is made up of the nucleus and the inner orbits. The outermost orbit of an atom was imagined as a cube. Lewis stated that in case of noble gases, all the 8 corners of the cube are occupied by electrons and that represented a completely filled outermost shell. The reason for the stability of atoms of noble gases was this completely filled outermost shell that was imagined to be a cube and electrons being present at all the 8 corners of the cube. Lewis said that for those atoms where the outermost shell is incomplete, means any of the corners of the cube is not occupied by electrons, will represent an incomplete outermost shell. For such elements, they'll try to achieve a completely filled outermost shell by sharing of electrons with the atoms of other elements. Let us try to understand this with an example. So for example, let us take chlorine, an element of group number 17 having a configuration 287. Now the outermost shell has 7 electrons, which would mean that the 7 corners of the cubes are occupied by the electrons, whereas one corner is still vacant. Now when this chlorine atom comes closer to another chlorine atom, the two chlorine atoms would combine together in such a way that all the 8 corners in both the atoms would now be occupied by electrons. How do they do so? They are going to do so by sharing of electrons in between them. Thus, Lewis for the first time imagined a chemical bond as a shared pair of electrons in between the two atoms. Langmuir further expanded this idea and proposed such a bond as a covalent bond. Thus, a covalent bond was defined as a bond formed in between two atoms by sharing an electron pair in between them. Now, just as Lewis imagined the bond to be as a shared pair of electron, Cossel had a new idea. Cossel at the same time proposed that for those atoms where the sharing of electrons is not possible, the bond is formed by a complete transfer of electron. Metal always loses an electron and forms a positive ion, we call it a cation, and non-metals are those elements which would gain electrons, and by gaining electrons they'll form a negative ion, we call it an anion. Now the positive and the negative ions thus formed will attract each other by strong electrostatic forces of attraction. And this electrostatic force of attraction between the oppositely charged ions was defined as an ionic bond. Thus, to conclude, both Lewis as well as Cossel had the same approach towards bonding, that is, the bonding was explained as a way to achieve a completely filled outermost shell, that is, an outermost shell occupied by 8 electrons. This theory came to be known as the electronic theory of chemical bonding, where it was proposed that all atoms try to achieve 8 electrons in their outermost shell, that is a completely filled outermost shell, and they do so either by sharing, gaining or losing electron. The rule later came to be known as the octet rule. Let us now try to understand the Lewis and Cossel's approach towards chemical bonding in detail by understanding what factors are responsible for the formation of ionic bond, and then we will discuss the factors responsible for the formation of covalent bond. So let us start in detail the discussion about ionic bond.
Two factors are important in the formation of ionic compounds. Understand that ionic compounds are those compounds which are formed between the oppositely charged ions. Therefore, the ease of formation of these ions will be crucial in the formation of ionic compounds. Once the ions are formed, the ions crystallize into a regular three-dimensional arrangement called a crystalline lattice. The arrangement of these ions in a crystalline lattice is the second crucial factor in the formation of ionic compounds. Let us look at both of these factors one by one. The first factor, the ease of formation of ions. The formation of positive ions involves ionization enthalpy. Ionization enthalpy is the energy needed to remove an electron from the outermost shell of an isolated gaseous atom. So if I have an atom here and this is the electron in the outermost shell, the electron is being attracted by the positively charged nucleus of the atom. If I want to remove this electron from the outermost shell, I will have to overcome the attraction of the nucleus, and for this, the electron must be supplied with some energy. This energy which I supply to the electron to remove it from the outermost shell of an atom is what you mean by ionization enthalpy. Since energy is always needed to remove an electron, the process of ionization is always endothermic. For all those processes which are endothermic, the enthalpies are positive, and therefore I will say that ionization enthalpy is always positive. It always has a positive value. Now, lower the values of ionization enthalpy would mean less energy is needed to remove an electron, and if less energy is needed to remove an electron, the formation of positive ion would be easier. Therefore, the factor responsible for the formation of positive ions would be the low values of ionization enthalpies. Now let us look at those elements which have got low values of ionization enthalpy and therefore are in a favorable position to form positive ions. We'll look at all those elements which are present in group 1 of the periodic table. For those elements which are present in group 1 of the periodic table, their outer shell configurations are going to be of the kind ns1. Since their outermost shell has only one electron, therefore they will have to lose only one electron to attain a stable configuration like a noble gas. Let us try to understand this with an example. So let us take sodium with atomic number 11. Since the atomic number of sodium is 11, its configuration is going to be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. Now if sodium loses one electron from its outermost shell, its configuration would become similar to a noble gas, that is neon. Therefore, sodium, by absorbing ionization enthalpy, will lose one electron and will get converted into a monovalent sodium cation Na+. The configuration would now be similar to that of a noble gas, and therefore it will become stable. It is not only sodium, but for all those elements which belong to group number 1, they will have to lose only one electron to attain a configuration like a noble gas. Therefore, all elements of group 1 will have low values of ionization enthalpy. A comparison with elements of group 2 will make the idea much more clear to you. So let us now look at those elements which belong to group 2 of the periodic table. For those elements which belong to group 2 of the periodic table, the outer shell configuration is of the kind ns2. Now, in order to attain a noble gas configuration, they will have to lose 2 electrons from the outermost shell. An example will help you to understand this better. Let us take magnesium with atomic number 12. Since the atomic number is 12, the configuration for magnesium is going to be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2. Therefore, magnesium will now have to lose 2 electrons to attain a configuration similar to neon. By absorbing the first ionization enthalpy, it will lose the first electron from the outermost shell. When it loses one electron, it will get converted into a monovalent cation Mg+. The configuration would now be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. Therefore, this monovalent cation will now have to lose one more electron. But the second electron to be lost is from a positive ion, and a positive ion will attract the negatively charged electron more strongly. Therefore, the second ionization enthalpy needed to remove the second electron will be greater than the first ionization enthalpy. Thus, this monovalent cation will once again absorb ionization enthalpy 2, will lose one more electron and will finally get converted into a bivalent cation with a configuration like a noble gas. So understand, it is only for elements of group 1 that the electron has to be removed from a neutral atom. For any other element which belongs to any other group of the periodic table, the second, third, or the fourth electron to be lost has to be lost from a positively charged ion, which would obviously require greater values of ionization enthalpies. Thus, we conclude that group 1 elements are those elements which have the lowest values of ionization enthalpies because they have to lose only one electron from a neutral atom. Let us now look at those factors that will favor the formation of negative ions. The formation of negative ions involve electron gain enthalpies. Electron gain enthalpy is defined as the energy change when an electron is added to the outermost shell of an isolated gaseous atom. To understand what is electron gain enthalpy, we'll take few examples. Let us first talk about elements belonging to group number 17. Now, for those elements which belong to group number 17, their outermost shell configurations would correspond to the type Ns2np5. For these elements to reach a configuration similar to a noble gas, which is of the type Ns2np6, they'll have to gain one electron in their outermost shell. So for all those elements which are belonging to group number 17, if they add one more electron to their outermost shell, they can attain a configuration similar to a noble gas. Since by adding an electron, they attain a noble gas configuration, that is a stable configuration, the process here becomes exothermic. It means that the energy is released in this process. Since the energy is released in the process is exothermic, the values of electron gain enthalpy here are negative. I'll therefore conclude that group 17 has large negative values of electron gain enthalpies. But what about elements belonging to group number 16? For those elements which are belonging to group number 16, their outermost shell configurations would be of the kind Ns2np4. Let us try to understand this with one very interesting example. Oxygen. Oxygen belongs to group number 16 and the configuration of oxygen is 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. Therefore, oxygen will have to add two more electrons in the outermost shell so that it can achieve a configuration like that of a noble gas. When we add the first electron to the outermost shell of oxygen, the configuration now becomes 1s2, 2s2, 2p5. But since we have added one electron, it now gets converted into a monovalent anion O-. When we try to add the second electron, we are trying to add this second electron to a negatively charged ion. Now, since we are adding a negatively charged electron to a negative ion, they'll repel each other. And therefore, to add the second electron, the energy has to be supplied. When we are supplying the energy to add the second electron, the process now becomes endothermic. So the first electron gain enthalpy of oxygen is exothermic and therefore negative, but the second electron gain enthalpy will be positive because the process now becomes endothermic. So you understand that it is only for group number 17 that we are going to get large negative values of electron gain enthalpy. And for any other group, the first electron gain enthalpy may be negative, but the consecutive electron gain enthalpies would be positive because now the electrons will be added to negatively charged ions and therefore will have to overcome repulsions. So the factor that favors the formation of negative ions are the large negative values of electron gain enthalpies, and that we get only in group number 17. So let us now conclude about what we have studied here about the formation of ions. The formation of negative ion will involve the electron gain enthalpy, and as you now know, the process can be exothermic or endothermic. Exothermic process will only be for group 17, where they'll have to add only one electron to attain a configuration of a noble gas. Thus, the large negative values of electron gain enthalpies are a favorable factor in the formation of anions, and that is what we observe as far as group 17 is concerned. Low values of ionization enthalpies are favorable factor in formation of cations, and that is what we observe as far as group number 1 is concerned. Therefore, ionic compounds will be formed more easily between the elements of group 1 and group 17. Why? Because group 1 are those elements which are elements with low ionization enthalpies, and group 17 are those elements which are elements with high negative values of electron gain enthalpies. So these are the favorable factors as far as the formation of ions is concerned. Let us now move on to the next topic, and that is lattice formation. We all have studied in our earlier classes that ionic compounds are solid in state, but the ions formed are in gaseous state. So what happens is that the gaseous ions which are formed will now start to crystallize in an orderly three-dimensional arrangement of cations and anions which are held together by strong electrostatic or coulombic forces. See, once the ions are formed, the ions are in their gaseous state. But the oppositely charged gaseous ions will now start attracting each other. As these ions will now attract each other, they'll come closer, and while they are coming closer, they'll slowly begin to crystallize, and in such a crystal, they will take an orderly three-dimensional arrangement. Such an orderly three-dimensional arrangement of ions in a crystal is what you call as a lattice. The process of lattice formation is exothermic process. Why? Because once the ions are getting crystallized, the crystal structure is getting stabilized. And it is getting stabilized because of the attraction between positive and negative ions, and thus their charge is getting balanced out. Whenever a system is getting more stable, the energy is released in this process, and therefore lattice formation is an exothermic process. To get a very clear idea of what we have studied so far, let us put all the factors for the formation of ionic compound together, and with help of an example, let us try to understand them for one last time. So I will here take an example of an ionic compound, that is sodium chloride. So in the formation of the sodium chloride, the first thing that will happen is the formation of ions. So let us start with the formation of positive ion, and that is sodium ion. So for example, if I have got sodium atoms in their gaseous state, so understand I have got 1 mole of sodium atoms in their gaseous state. We all know the configuration for sodium is 2, 8, 1, and it will have to lose 1 electron from its outermost shell and thus attain a configuration similar to a noble gas. But for losing an electron, energy has to be supplied because the electrons are attracted by the nucleus. So you will have to supply energy to overcome that attraction of the nucleus and remove the electron from the outermost shell of an atom. We all know that this energy which is supplied is what we call as the ionization enthalpy. So by absorbing energy, the gaseous sodium atoms will lose 1 electron from their outermost shell, and this gives me 1 mole of sodium gaseous ions. Since the energy is absorbed in the process, therefore the ionization enthalpy is positive, and in this case the value of ionization enthalpy is 495.8 kilojoules per mole. So 1 mole of sodium ions will absorb this amount of energy, and by absorbing this energy, which we call ionization enthalpy, they'll get converted into 1 mole of sodium gaseous ions. In a similar way, the next ion that we'll take into account would be chloride ions. So chlorine, let us say we have got gaseous chlorine atoms, and chlorine belonging to 17th group will now have a configuration 2, 8, 7. If chlorine atom gains one electron in the outermost shell, it will get converted into chloride ion and thereby attain a configuration like a noble gas. But we all know that when we add electron to any of the elements of group number 17, by adding one electron they become more stable because they gain a configuration of a noble gas. And therefore the process is exothermic because they are becoming stable, so the energy is getting released. So when I'm going to add one electron to the outermost shell of chlorine atom, it is going to get converted into chloride ions, and now we get gaseous chloride ions. But the energy is released in this process, and that is what we call as the electron gain enthalpy. The electron gain enthalpy in this case is equal to minus 348.7 kilojoules per mole, which means that when I will add electrons to 1 mole of gaseous chlorine atom, the gaseous chlorine atoms would convert into gaseous chloride ions, and this is the amount of energy that is going to get released. Now, if you calculate the sum of both of these enthalpies, that is, if you add the ionization enthalpy and the electron gain enthalpy, this is going to be equal to 495 plus 8 minus 348.7, and that is going to be equal to plus 147.1 kilojoules per mole. Now look, when I have added the ionization enthalpy and the electron gain enthalpies, the sum is positive. The sum is positive means that the overall process of formation of both of these ions is endothermic, because you see more energy is absorbed than the amount of energy that is released, which means the overall process of ion formation in this case is endothermic. That is, you are supplying more energy for the formation of sodium ions than the amount of energy that is released while the formation of chloride ions. But we have studied that atoms combine in order to go to a more stable state by lowering their energy. But if the overall process is endothermic, it would mean that the energy is being supplied in this process. So if the energy is absorbed by the system, it is going to go to a higher energy state. What I want to say is that only the formation of ions is not the factor for formation of ionic compounds. But as we have just studied, that once these ions are formed, the gaseous ions will now start attracting each other, which would mean that now the gaseous sodium ions will be attracted towards the gaseous chloride ions and vice versa. When these ions will get attracted, they will go into a three-dimensional arrangement as a solid. And this is what is going to give you solid sodium chloride. But when 1 mole of sodium ions and 1 mole of chloride ions will get into a lattice structure, the crystal structure will get stabilized. And since the crystal structure is getting stabilized, the energy is released in this process. This energy which is released is called the lattice enthalpy. And in this case, the value of lattice enthalpy for the formation of sodium chloride is minus 788 kilojoules per mole. So understand that the lattice enthalpy here, it is compensating for the sum of ionization and electron gain enthalpies. So though the sum of ionization and electron gain enthalpy is positive, which makes the process endothermic, but large amount of energy is released during the lattice formation, and that more than compensates the energy that is absorbed during the process of ion formation. Therefore, both of these factors will decide the formation of ionic compounds. Thus, I'll conclude that in the formation of an ionic compound, the sum of electron gain enthalpy and ionization enthalpy may be positive. But still, the crystal structure which is getting stabilized is due to the energy released in the formation of lattice. And thus, the qualitative measure of formation of ionic bond and the stability of ionic compound is provided by the enthalpy of lattice formation and not simply by achieving the octet in gaseous state by the ions.
So I hope this video would have given you a clear idea about those factors which are responsible for the formation of an ionic bond. In a similar way, in my next video, we'll discuss about the idea of covalent bond based upon the Lewis theory. Goodbye till then.